Attention! The National Weather Service has issued a hurricane warning for the entirety of the National Hockey League. Please stay tuned for further information from the Storm Cellar.
So welcome to the Storm Cellar. Brad and Ray are always here, generally, unless Ray doesn't show.
Yeah. We're always here unless we're not.
Yeah, exactly. We're here unless we're not here. So this week we are joined by a friend of the show, Samantha. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you guys?
I'm good. And I skipped right over Ray, of course.
Yeah, well, I'm easily passed over too. No, you know what? I'm doing great. Things have been hopping around Calgary. My goodness, Kadri signing, that was kind of humongous news. In fact, it used up all the oxygen in NHL news all in one kind of blitz.
It really, the Flames went from being like, this is a disaster, to, for at least the next year or two, this is a much better team than you would have had with Johnny Hockey.
Yeah.
But those contracts, I think it's like 125 million tied up in two guys for 7 years. I mean, that's a lot of term.
I think it's Huberdeau and Kadri that they have a lot of money tied up into.
Isn't that amazing when they talked about, losing so many key portions that everyone thought it was going to be a dumpster fire, and instead it's a raging inferno now. There are a lot of very happy Calgarians, let me tell you. I've seen them. I mean, it's 32 degrees and a lot of people are wearing their Flames jerseys right now when they should be wearing much less, because it's too hot for that type of garb. But hey, they're out there and they're excited.
If there was ever a time for that dodgeball meme, like, let's see how this plays out, Cotton, because this could be a really great season for Calgary, or this can turn out really, really bad. I think for the next couple of years are fine. Oh, sorry, Sam, go ahead.
No, it's okay. Calgary got very lucky. Other teams in the league did not, and other teams did not make any moves. But we shall not talk about those teams.
Speaking of teams that don't make any moves, Sam, you weren't born a Hurricanes fan. Would you like to introduce yourself to the world here?
Was not born a Hurricanes fan. I just became a fan last summer. I was born and still am and will be to the day I die orange and black. I came from Philly. I am Philly through and through, 4 for 4. Except for the Sixers, I don't really approve of them leaving Wells Fargo Center, but that's a different story. They're trying to build I don't even remember how much the stadium is going to be, but they're trying to build it in Center City, Philadelphia. It is the worst possible idea. I'm just like, okay, whatever. Anyway.
Is it going to have a little jail? Like the football stadium?
Well, it may as well. But yeah, no, I come from Philly. I write for Flyers Nitty Gritty. I also write for Old City Sports, covering the Canes and the Wolves. I'm also going to be covering the AHL for Old City. I also take photos. I actually did checking for charity last week, which had a lot of big names there, like Tony D'Angelo, which all Canes fans are familiar with. Actually, super nice guy. I was really taken aback by how nice he actually is. He took the time to give out autographs to everybody, took time to take pictures with everybody. He was super nice guy. And then Johnny Hockey was there. I didn't even notice that he was. Me and my friend went out to the lobby of the skate zone in Voorhees, New Jersey, and she's like, "Oh, Johnny Hockey's out there." I was like, "No, he's not." I'm like, "I know what he looks like. I love Johnny Gaudreau. He is my hockey idol." And I was like, "That's not him. I'm telling you, that's not him. I know what he looks like." We walked back in to see the one team that was playing, and he stood right next to us 30 seconds later.
Oh, wow.
I froze.
That's awesome.
I was like, I hit her on the arm. I'm like, that's him. I was like,
Awesome.
I had enough energy to spit out, can I get a picture with you?
Awesome.
But yeah, so I took pictures of that last weekend. I mainly cover the Lehigh Valley Phantoms, which is the AHL affiliate of the Flyers. So I deal with them directly. And yeah, I also am trying to get an AHL show off the ground.
And
maybe, possibly.
There you go. You know, I have to ask right off the bat, because you've already mentioned TDA. And you said that Philly was pretty quiet over the last little bit. Of course, they did get TDA, and all I could think about, you have a new coach taking a team that's rebuilding that no one thought would be the necessarily willing to deal with a team that's rebuilding, and then you put TDA in and amongst all of that with the reputation, which, you know, you were talking about how nice he's been. Perhaps he's got his reputation turned around with his stint in, you know, Raleigh, and now he's kind of moving on in a different path that Philly fans are going to see, you know, different. And I'm wondering, with the coach who's volatile and TDA with the reputation of volatile,
I want to see him.
I was wondering what that was going to be. Yeah,
82 games.
I think bringing Torts was absolutely, no doubt, the correct fit for Philadelphia. Without a doubt, he is the correct fit. He's not going to put up with any crap on the ice, and he's a defensive coach, which Philly has been lacking. I'm sure, you know, outsiders like you guys have noticed that over the last couple of years, is that we have been lacking defense. Torts is a defensive coach. He's not going to deal with it. I think bringing in someone like TDA, who, when things don't go his way on the ice, he tends to get a little bit cranky.
A little.
We've also brought in Nick Delorier, who is not really much of a producer, but he is a playmaker, and he gets very cranky on the ice. We also re-signed Zach McEwen. We're going to have more grit on the ice, and I think what Torts wants is for Philly not necessarily to be, there isn't a pressure to make it to the playoffs. There's just more of a pressure to win more games this year. And I think his goal is for Philly to just be annoying to play against.
I was just about to ask if you thought this might be a return to the Broad Street Bullies.
I think so.
Because we haven't seen that type of play for a while, and certainly not to the level of reputation that gave them the very name. And when you're talking about being physical and a little agitating and angry, you want to hearken back to those days when you're as old as I am. You remember it because you saw it firsthand. Just thinking that if you can't win the game, you're going to make the opponents pay for their time visiting Philly.
And someone like Zach McEwen, yes, his numbers are not that great, but I'm not a stat person. I never have been. I never will be. You know, the only time I look at stats is if I'm looking at a goalie and I want to look at like his save percentage or his goals against average, just to see of where he's at. But I'm an eye test person. Someone like Felix Sandstrom, he's a goaltender for Philadelphia. He's a great goalie. His numbers don't prove it, but you look at him and you're being like, okay, that kid he's a good goalie.
Mm-hmm.
So someone like Zach McEwen, yes, his numbers don't show it, but that kid is great on the ice. And guess what? Every minute he's on the ice, he's there to do his job, and he is there to work. Plain and simple.
So if you're okay, and we'll stay with the Phillies just a little bit long, or sorry, the Phillies, we'll stay with the Flyers just a
Please,
little bit
let's
longer.
not talk about the Phillies.
Yeah, the cross-pollination went haywire there because normally,
Bad to
and Brad
worse,
will
man.
tell you, I cross-pollinate my basketball with the hockey. I don't normally go into baseball that way, so we'll try to fix
Let's
that
not
up.
talk about the Phillies. They're disappointment.
There you go. But with the Flyers, where I mean, outside of the you want to see an obvious improvement throughout play. Where do you see them ending up in the grand scheme of things at the end of this season, where you could call it a success?
Winning more than 20 games.
That is kind of a low
that's setting the bar
bar.
low, but that's doable though, right? I mean, sometimes you just need to get over that hump and then keep going.
So, it was like almost 2 weeks ago, I talked with the minor league head coach, Ian LePerriere. I don't know if you guys remember who he is, but he played on the Flyers. He was a Flyers assistant coach for 8 years, and then he took the head coaching position with Lehigh last season. He said in his 8 years of being an assistant coach, he did not remember as many call-ups from the minor league to the NHL as he did last season. There were 13 total call-ups due to injury. So, you know what I want for the Flyers? No injuries.
There you go. Wouldn't that be something for any team? But you're right. Yeah, they were I think snake bit is usually the term, but man, that was so many players going down like that. And I mean, at least you got a good evaluation of your farm team, right? Because the players came up and you had to put them into that situation where it's like a growth experience. Maybe they're not good enough to stick around once the regulars get back, but at least you see what you've got.
I called it from the very first injury that happened last season with a prospect. It ended up having shoulder surgery, and I said, watch what I tell you, we're going to be having injuries this season. I called it right off the bat.
Man, oh man.
Caniacs know the feeling. Patches.
Oh,
yeah, you guys know what I go through.
Yeah.
So to bridge the gap between the Flyers and the Hurricanes, you are a Hurricanes fan in particular because of one individual. Do you want to talk? I know you want to talk about him. So let's talk about Alex Lyon.
Who is sadly now a Panther.
I think he has a good shot at making that roster, though. I mean, they have Bobrovsky as their number one, but Miller is their number two. So, and Alex played really well and helped win Chicago a Calder Cup. So, he's going to get a good crack at that.
Spencer Knight is their number two.
Thank you, Knight. Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, it's going to come down to Knight and Lyon. I think Alex has a solid chance, and if not, the selfish part of me will get to see him in Charlotte 4 times. When Charlotte comes up to Lehigh 4 times this year.
There you go.
There you go. Yeah.
Always look at the bright side of life, right? I mean, that's great.
I really do want him to have a solid chance at being an NHL backup, though. But if it doesn't happen, then he'll be with Charlotte, and hey, I'll get to see him. He'll be back home at PPL Center 4 times this year.
And Alex Lyons during the Calder Cup did something really cool. And I think Shannon, who co-hosts your Superstorm podcast with you, made this happen. You want to tell that story real quick?
So I went up for game 4, and I made a sign, and it was like, I'd be lying if I said I didn't drive 4 hours to see you play. And unfortunately, he didn't play that game. Pyotr Kochetkov did, baby goalie. And we waited outside. Oh my God, I think like an hour and a half. We ended up asking Jalen Chatfield, hey, is Alex still in there? He's like, no, he left like 15 minutes after the game. Coach told him that he was going to be playing tomorrow night.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
So I was brokenhearted because I wanted my jersey signed, and I wanted to like meet Alex. Not that I haven't met him before, but I just wanted to, talk to him again. Everybody, Deb, Shannon, Aaron, leave your jersey with us. I was like, okay. So I left my Phantoms jersey there. The next night, everyone's like texting me at the game. I'm disappointed because I'm watching it from home because I had to work the next morning. So I drove 4 hours to get to work.
Oof.
And Shannon was like, Sam, you're gonna love the video that's coming through in the chat. And I was like, okay. Well, prior to that, she's like, I just ran into Alex's girlfriend. She's like, I have her number. We're gonna try and make this happen and get him to sign your jersey. I'm like, okay. Like, I was just like, whatever. I didn't believe it at first. Aaron sent the video through the chat. He's coming off the ice. He points to Shannon, gives the little signature.
Yeah,
she didn't
yeah.
see it at first. She threw the jersey over. He signed it, threw it back over. I think I was the only autograph he gave that night.
Skated right off the ice after that.
Huh?
He skated right off the ice after that. He was looking for Shannon because he saw the Flyers jersey, grabbed it, signed it right off the ice. He didn't stop for anybody else.
Wow. Cool. That's outstanding. Exclusivity right there.
So I messaged his girlfriend, Alexa, on Instagram, and I just said to her, I was like, thank you so much for making it happen. I was like, I feel super awkward messaging you. I was like, please tell Alex I said thank you and that it really, really, really meant a lot to me.
That's outstanding. That's a great story. That's a great story.
Good guy, yeah.
So, and I guess we can take a look, in the coming season and stuff. You give us a breakdown of what you think about. I mean, we've got lots of stuff on the go with the young kids. I mean, yeah. So kind of walk us through some of that. There's a few things that have been going on.
Yeah, there's quite a few things that have been going on with that team. Basically the entire the entire Calder Cup team is no more. Ryan Warsofsky is no more. He's now Sharks assistant coach. Which, people don't realize that when teams like this win a Calder Cup, this is exactly what happens. They go off into different directions because they did their ultimate goal. And now, Captain Clutch, Andrew Podorowski, I cried. Cut the onions. I cried when that move happened. Is going to the Seattle Kraken, and he has a solid chance of making that roster. So you've got Andrew Podorowski no longer on the team. He did what he had to do. He won another Calder Cup. Ryan Warsofsky won another Calder Cup. Now assistant head coach, you see these guys wanting to get their chance of being on an NHL team, being on an NHL roster. That's exactly what they're going to do. Now it's time for these other kids to show what they can do and put it together. I don't think that Canes fans should be looking directly at Kochetkov to be carrying this team, to be carrying the Wolves, because it's mainly where he's going to be, because we have Anderson and Ronta in Raleigh. Again, should not be looking at Kochetkov to be carrying the Wolves, because he also has Sawchenko. Zach Sawchenko comes from the San Jose organization. Numbers weren't great, but San Jose Barracuda were also trash last year. So when your rest of your team's numbers are trash, your goalie's numbers are going to be trash. So, Sawchenko's a wonderful goalie. I don't think he's going to have any issues in net in Chicago. But, I think Drury and Chatfield have a solid chance of making the roster in Raleigh. We just have to see if they make the cut. There's just been a lot of moves.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head. It's especially when you win a Calder in the dominating fashion that Chicago did. It wasn't really close. The closest series in the playoffs was
them and Stockton.
And them in Stockton, exactly. The finals. I was at the 3 of those 5 finals games, and Springfield, it was an excellent team. I feel like Springfield didn't play their game those last 3 games, really. They're a much bigger team. They're a harder hitting team. and they really looked like they wanted to skate with Chicago, which to me was the wrong idea. I actually went on record as saying, on Twitter, I asked them, like, I don't know enough about Springfield. Is this the game they want to play? Like, they're trying to play a little dump and chase, and they're trying to skate the puck, and it's just not working. We spoke last week, Ray. Go ahead, Sam.
Sorry, Brad. They were trying to do what Lehigh wanted to do all season, was the dump and chase. And when you're playing against a team like Chicago, or you're playing against a team like Springfield, you can't do that. You can't do that because of the size of the team. You got to look at the size of the players.
And it's Chicago to me is.
Yeah, go ahead. Ray. Sorry.
I was going to say Chicago is so good positionally that we talked, I think, last week, Ray, about dump and chase and how that's new to some folks. Like, why are you giving away the puck? And Chicago does it the way the Canes do it. We're putting the puck in the corner. We know most of the time we're going to get there first. Springfield was doing the same action, right? They were dumping the puck, but they clearly didn't understand that. I mean, every time they dumped the puck, I bet they only got 3 out of 10, and Chicago got the other 7. So now you're just chasing your tail, right? And in the dominating fashion that Chicago won the Calder last year, head coach is gone. Your best players are going to get real shots at the NHL. And a lot of our guys were not young guys. Like, we do have guys like Drury and Chatfield that are younger, but some of these other guys are AHL veterans. Some of them have NHL experience from several years ago. They want that, next shot. So to see the team broken up, I wouldn't put too much stock in, like Sam said, in like Piotr's numbers for next year in terms of just raw numbers, because he's going to have to get used to playing with an entirely new group of guys for the most part. Yeah. There was, because last year Chicago, had an agreement with, I think it was the Islanders as well. So we had, guys who didn't belong to the Hurricanes, but, are under NHL two-way contracts that were on that team. And so it's going to be a very different look, I think, for that team this year. I wouldn't put too much stock into how they start. The coaching change that's a big difference. That's huge, right?
Yeah.
So
Bailey on Storm Surge basically said it best, that Chicago had the cheat codes this year.
Yeah, well, and you're talking about a whole new lineup. They're getting new additions. Just this week, Waddell signs Antoni Honka, Finnish right-handed defenseman who is kind of looked at as one of the offensive threats that may have a very bright future, but he spent all of his time playing in Finland, and this is going to be his first year back. So there's all of these transitions when you add new players, new coaches. You never really know what you're going to get. You can say that the franchise itself has built itself where it's solid from the ground up, you know what I mean? From your farm team all the way to the top, everything's running smoothly. And when you have this much transition in one area, who knows what it could, do to the whole system, right? The whole way through.
And just real quick, Ray, on that note, the Canes just announced, I think 48 hours ago, that they've renewed their deal with the Admirals. So our ECHL team is staying in place. And side note, don't ask me why. Every time I hear Antoni Honka's name, it makes me think of Bill Murray in Stripes and Sergeant Hulka.
Yes.
I don't know why. I keep hearing Honka's name in Bill Murray's voice from that movie. That's just funny to me as an old person.
That is, it makes me laugh too. I quite enjoy that. And you know what? And it just popped into my mind here. If I recall correctly, this is a Hurricane signing as well. Waddell had signed Derek Stepan to a PTO.
Yes. Yep.
So
interesting move.
It was
for me.
I wonder. I was gonna ask your guys' take on this. Like, he was UFA and zero response from anyone, and where do you think this lands? Like, because it's going to be crowded on our team, to be sure.
I think it was a good idea to sign him to a PTO, not to a contract, because PTOs, you pay them, but you don't pay them enough. And yeah, my friend Andrew Rinaldi over at Field Pass Hockey calls him stepdaddy.
Awesome.
Yeah,
awesome.
we'll have to have Andrew on sometimes. He was instrumental in helping me understand AHL, that whole Calder Cup final run.
He's a phenomenal human being. I love Andrew.
The PTO does two things in my mind, Ray. One is, as Sam said, it's not a contract. So there is a salary cap. You also have a 50 contract limit.
Oh, wow.
People sometimes forget that. And most teams are only like in the low 40s. Most teams don't approach that 50 contract limit, but it's there.
Yeah. So in the NHL, there's a 50 contract limit. AHL is unlimited. They're allowed to carry an unlimited roster.
The big question for me would be, because we have a log jam now around that fourth line, even with Patches out. So now you have somewhere to put Natchez, but you have a log jam of potential people on the fourth line. Last year, I think Derek made $1.3 million, which more power to the guy. I see him being brought back, maybe as a guy who could potentially coach in the future. So having him around younger guys is fantastic. But, you know, we're into August, the middle of August, and nobody gave him a contract. So if they do sign him, I hope this, no offense to Derek, but like this should be a league minimum style. It shouldn't be 1.3 million for a team that's already over the cap, right?
Yeah.
This should be an $800,000, $900,000 contract.
League minimum. I think we gave one of our guys on the Flyers, who I'm very high on, Tanner Lazinski. I think we gave him league minimum, which was $762.
Yep, and that I'd be fine for that. But given the glut of people that we have at that logjam, I'm like, so I'd rather see him in than Martin Hook, for example, who's making a lot more than that. I'd like to see him around the kids to help bring them along. But it's one of those moves where I'm like, if they're serious about maybe giving him a contract, I feel like somebody's got to go, or there's something, you know, if they give him a contract, something else needs to happen. You can always just send some of these kids back to the AHL.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, is that the right move? You know, so I don't know. It was an interesting signing because I would be happy with it if he stayed on, but there's so many potential guys taking up that fourth line. And there's already, you know, 5 people that could potentially play that line without, you know, Derek Stepan. So
it's kind of funny. When I look at PTOs, lots of times it's taking a flyer, or it's perhaps a PR stunt of sorts. I'm not looking at you, Eric Stahl, but the story of Eric Stahl getting a PTO in Florida was because his brother is there as well. It's kind of a reunification, you know, brother love, all sorts of
right. Good story, but Florida's $4 million over the cap. They're not signing Eric Stahl.
No, that's exactly it. So the story of him getting a PTO was simply window dressing and putting lipstick on the pig, I guess. I don't know what you call it, but this time around with him, I mean, was Stepan ever as big a name as Eric Stahl? No. But he's got that veteran leadership that you might want to tap in on. And you're right. I think you're onto something, Brad, when you suggest perhaps there's a coaching future for him. And this is just another means to acclimatize yourself and get used to being around the kids, relating to them and stuff, because hockey has changed immensely over the years, and there's different parameters on how locker rooms work. Moving along here, we're talking about youth and the signings and so forth. Let's very quickly address the World Juniors, and I bring this. I bring this up because I've made this joke many times before. The two teams in the finals at the World Juniors are Canada and Canada Light, otherwise known as Finland. I've
Or you
always
just insulted like half the people who listen to the show.
I know
They're all
it's
fans.
I
Or
and I
fans
hate,
of fans.
but it's a show of respect as someone who loves, he wants to see his Canadian teams win, play well, all the rest of it. The style of play, I've loved everything about it, and I see the Finns playing the same style, and it just, in my heart, I want, if Canada can't win, I want the Finns to win. So really, in all of this, I'm happy. But the problem is, there's a few things that are a problem. Number one, of course, Hockey Canada going through all sorts of just terrible news has affected, and I believe it's actually true in this case, has affected the attendance at the World Juniors in some way, shape, or form. I mean, aside from the fact that it had to be moved into the summer, these games are normally packed. The reason why World Junior games and World Junior tournaments are played so many times in Canada is because the stands are always full and everyone's excited, and it sells tickets and it promotes this youth, and it's always well attended. And this time it's just not. Brad, you were mentioning like with the attendance being way down and not as many eyes on it, it's not resonating with very many people at all, the juniors, and a lot of great players are being missed out on, in a sense. Like, you got to be all the way in, like you're almost a talent scout, you know what I mean, for the teams to be watching them. Otherwise you're missing out. And that the issues with Hockey Canada, I think, have affected, it certainly has for me. I've not watched a single game the World Juniors. I can't even remember the last time that happened.
Most people I know aren't, and I do think if the World Juniors were in Europe, I don't think the attendance issues would be. I think part of it's because it is in Canada. I think the Hockey Canada scandal has really affected people, which is good, right?
Yeah, 100%.
There's dozens of people showing up to games. Tickets, if you go on Ticketmaster, the cheapest ticket's like $180 Canadian,
mm-hmm.
And it's like, I am just kind of glad all those people who bought tickets to scalp them are just losing their shirts.
Yeah,
my Schadenfreude is in full effect on that. But the good news. Go ahead, Sam.
Karma.
Oh yeah,
right.
And I know you, Samantha, you said that as far as what you're watching, it's very personalized, isn't it? Like, as far as paying attention to the juniors, it's not so much the team. You want to see the players and prospects.
I just want to see how Flyers prospects are doing, because those are the guys that are going to be coming to, either going to be getting a shot on the Philadelphia roster, or they're going to be getting sent to Lehigh. And I'm going to be having eyes on them during the season. So I want to see how they're going to do. Now, granted, they're playing against guys of their own level. They're not playing against guys of the NHL level. So I'm not really truly going to see how they're going to do until training camp wise. But this gives me an idea of what, their baseline is going to be.
It's a great, you're right. And it's a great tournament. It's a great showcase. There are a lot of juniors that play in that tournament that's their opportunity to shine. And you see their draft positions shoot up or drop off the, cliff one way or the other, depending on how they do just in that tournament alone. And when COVID blew it up earlier, It was devastating because that was their opportunity to do that sort of thing before the draft. I mean, that's why it's played at the time when it is. Over the Christmas holidays, they've got, it doesn't affect, the junior hockey season all that much. They parse it out a little bit where you're taking the best players off of all of these teams from all over. You're pulling them out and putting them in there to showcase themselves right before, give it that last little push before the draft. Now that the draft is done, these guys they're making their first impression. It's going to be weird. It's weird all around. It's weird all around.
Yeah. And on the Canes side, Ray, so the Canes have two guys who will be playing for the gold medal tonight, both on Team Finland.
Yep.
And I'm going to butcher these names, but Alexi Haimasalmi, who is a right-handed defenseman. I think that's not terrible.
Yeah.
Right-handed defenseman. He has 6 points so far in the tournament. Like I said, the fact he shoots right is a big deal as far as the Hurricanes go. That'll be a big one. And then Ville Koivunen is what I'm thinking, who is a forward who I'm trying to think. I don't think he has any points thus far. I think he is a +1 maybe for the tournament. But two Finns, so obviously with Finland defeating Sweden yesterday, they are in the finals. I'm hoping, as I think most Hurricanes fans are, that Finland just cleans the clock of Canada tonight. I think that might be at 8 o'clock Eastern.
I believe it is. Yeah.
For folks listening. So we at least have a couple of Canes prospects on Team Finland that we feel good rooting for. At least I do.
Yeah, I like seeing the talent again, and in this time, I suppose it is unfair for me to take out my anger on these young men who are not part of the greater problem. Let's move on because I don't want to talk about that anymore. Being the lone Canadian in our group of three here in the Storm Cellar, we will address that even fuller as more information comes out. Though I promise you that I can gather the gumption to deal with that on a later issue. What we should talk about, other news, is that for the first time, of course, with the summer season is we're getting closer to the start of the season, but it's the summer always brings opportunities to see these young talents, and it's rookie tournaments all over the place. The league kind of splits up with I don't know if it's league enforced parameters or if the teams just GMs make a gentleman's agreement and say, hey, let's get together this year and we'll have a little tourney with these four, and maybe next year we'll do it with a different four or whatever. Not sure how that works out, but this time the Canes are going to be getting a chance to host Florida, Nashville, and Tampa, all of their youth. It's like another mini training camp, another thing to look forward to, and the Canes get to host this year, so that should be pretty exciting and a great opportunity to go get a look at these four teams.
Yeah, and only young guys, right? Only prospects 24 years old or younger with less than 20 games in the NHL. So you're really getting to crack at people who should make NHL rosters, if they haven't already a little bit. So, yeah, that'll be a fun one. September 16th through 19th for those of you in Raleigh who can attend.
Yep. Ray, I think that agreement is that a future considerations guy who gets around.
Maybe. You know what? I don't.
Vote in our poll, our Twitter poll, if you're listening. If you haven't, is the problem him or is it the system? Because he gets traded all the time. So is he like a locker room cancer, or is the system just stacked against this poor guy?
Man, I don't know. I voted that it's him.
That's what I said. I said he must be a locker room cancer because he gets traded like practically daily sometimes. I mean, he's getting traded mid-flight from one city to another.
Man, oh man, that yikes. So look. Now we've gone over We talked about the Calder Cup finals. We got the lowdown on Samantha, you're so busy doing so much. You're involved in a lot of media, I gotta say, for you to be putting that much work out. When do you get time to do anything for yourself, or is this just for yourself anyway?
So I actually am starting school on the 29th for public relations, my master's degree.
Nice.
Through Full Sail University out of Florida. They have an online master's program. So I'm starting that, and yeah, I get time for myself.
There you go. Good. And now take us through all of the things that you're involved in again, and your plans, and give it all to us, because you've been a really good guest and shared a lot of great information on.
Give people the social. Where can they find Flyers Nitty Gritty and Superstorm and.
Okay, so you can find my personal Twitter is at Samantha Wismer, and then I'm involved with Old City Sports Network, so it's at old_sports, old with an E, so it's OLDE. Jesse Bell is based out of Philadelphia, so he made it Old City Sports. And then you can find Flyers Nitty Gritty at Flyers Nitty. We also have a website, flyersnittygritty.com. Obviously, Phantoms, LV Phantoms, Flyers. I don't know why Canes fans would be interested in Flyers, but there you go. And yeah, I mean, all of my work usually gets posted to my Twitter. My AHL show is at AHL Buttes. The name might be changing. I don't know yet, but let's just keep it at AHL Buttes for right now. It will be getting launched off the ground at some point. I just don't know when yet.
Well, when it does, we'll take that heads up and help promote you for it, because clearly you're a great host. I mean, you've got the goods, you got the knowledge, you got the delivery. I've learned a lot about these players and the situation with the Wolves, so it's fantastic to have that type of information as we're moving on. Brad, what else do we have on the go here? We got the Honka signing, we got Stepan with a PTO, World Juniors. We've talked about it all. We've had a great guest.
It's been a slow news week, so all I have left is go Canes.
Go Canes.
Thank you everyone for tuning in. Ray and I greatly appreciate your support in helping us produce an informative and fun podcast. As always, we'd like to say that we believe hockey is for everyone. Whether you're a Caniac or a bunch of jerks, doesn't matter, as we're just a couple of jerks anyway. We would love to hear your questions, comments, and suggestions. We will do our best to answer anything hockey related. You can reach us via email at stormcellar97@gmail.com. On Twitter, we are at stormcellar97, and on Facebook at facebook.com/stormcellar97.